Okay, good morning. I'm Amanda Smith. I'm the Director of K-12 Engagement. If you are here to learn more about the Remake Learning Days festival that goes on across Pennsylvania and other locations throughout the country and the world, you are in the right place. After this webinar, it will be packaged up so that you have the recording, everything you need, and further information if you are interested in getting on board with Remake Learning Days this year, especially if you have an opportunity happening that impacts the K-12 environment and family engagement. So before I begin the webinar right now, under the K-12 Engagement Network, we are working to create the Keystone K-12 Spotlight. This is for anyone working in this K-12 world that you feel could be elevated. Share out these good news and these good stories of amazing educators and what they're doing across Pennsylvania. So the link is there in the chat, and we'll provide that in the follow-up email. We're also on LinkedIn, and you can subscribe to our newsletter that we send out internal messaging to Penn State regarding K-12, but also to external members of our community that are in the K-12 community, especially with 500 school districts, but lots of different networks that work and impact the K-12 space. So first, the K-12 Engagement Network, you might have not heard of us yet. We are a newer unit based in outreach, but the main goal is to connect, collaborate, and build capacity with the K-12 space, from making sure they know all the great things that we have occurring across K-12 for them, to starting to build off opportunities like summits where we can engage with education leaders and create better, more enhanced university K-12 spotlights. So we'll be sharing a lot more of that in an email as well as a follow-up. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Miriam Kraus. She is with Remake Learning Days and is the statewide coordinator, to talk to us more about this amazing festival and a great opportunity for Penn State to get more engaged. So Miriam, I'm going to happily turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amanda. Hi, everybody. My name is Miriam Kraus. I am the Remake Learning Days Across PA coordinator. And I'm very excited to be here with you today to tell you a little bit about, Amanda, if you can go to the next slide, please. We're going to focus today on what is Remake Learning Days. I'm going to tell you a little bit historically about what happened last year, what's going to happen this year, and then how to get involved with Remake Learning Days. Mostly we'll be focused on becoming an event host, but then also talking about how to outreach to families to make sure that families know about these events that are happening in their communities. If we go to the next slide, to talk about Remake Learning Days, we really need to start with Remake Learning, the network. If you go to the next slide, Remake Learning started in about 2007, and it's a free peer network for educators and innovators that grew up in the Pittsburgh region. And in Pittsburgh, across the world, something happened in 2006, 2007, 2008 that really started to make a difference in education. And it was the beginning of the smartphone becoming really, really common. And that change in educational technology started all of these educators and innovators thinking about how that might change education for kids. In Remake Learning, if you go back one slide, please. Thank you. We really focus on our 21st century learning values. And then on the next slide, we engage our equity principles, our equity pillars incredibly. We hold them very near and dear to us. We're always working to make everything that Remake Learning does, and including Remake Learning Days, equitable for learners of color, learners in poverty, learners with disabilities, learners in rural communities, and girls in STEM. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about that network, because when folks hear that it's educators and innovators, they might just think that it's schools and technology companies, but we know it's not just that. We think of educators in a much more broad sense, because we know that kids are learning everywhere they go. They learn at the parks, they learn online, they learn in libraries and clubs and museums, from their families, from their peers. And so we tried to bring all of those different pieces together in Remake Learning, the network, to make sure that we're communicating across the entire learning ecosystem, not just within schools, but within an entire community. On the next slide, you'll see a group of people that when Remake Learning started in 2007, we really weren't including as much as we could. And those are our parents. We know that parents are kids' first teachers. They are the most important educator ever in a child's life. And one of the ways, when around 2016, Remake Learning Days thought really deeply about how they were engaging those parents. And they came up with a way to, broaden and strengthen that engagement in a different way. And on the next slide, we introduce Remake Learning Days. Remake Learning Days is a learning festival. It's community oriented, it's time bound, so people can get excited about what's happening educationally within their own community. And it brings together all those stakeholders that I talked about before, not just schools, but also all of the places that kids learn. It might be the parks, it might be 4-H, it might be clubs and after-school programs, it might be a local university. And all of those folks can come together to provide creative, immersive learning experiences for young people and their families. Here's some pictures of last year's Remake Learning Days, and you can see we have learners who are of all ages. We have early childhood kids at their early learning centers. We have kids who are in high school making art with their parents. And in all of these pictures, you see not just the kids engaged, but we also see the parents engaged in the learning with their kids. And that's really important to Remake Learning Days because we're thinking about helping kids to be lifelong learners. And we know that lifelong learning happens within relationships. It happens within families, it happens within friend relationships, but we want to get families to go together to have a fun, innovative, cool learning experience, to get everybody excited to continue being that learner throughout their life. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit about our impact. We started in 2016. We've held nearly 4,000 events in all kinds of places, hosted by all kinds of organizations. And we've reached nearly 225,000 attendees. Just last year, we had 131 media posts, and that's including traditional media, influencer media, social media, all of that, because we really are working to bring attention and a spotlight to the positive things that are happening within education. We know that sometimes the news about education isn't so positive, and we want Remake Learning Days to be one of the things and one of the ways that we get education and educators talking about the wonderful things that are already going on within their programs. On the next slide, you'll see some of the goals of Remake Learning Days. We want parents and caregivers to learn alongside their children, and we want to expose families to innovative learning opportunities. All across our state, we have cool, unique, wonderful learning opportunities that are happening, and not every family knows about them. So we want to put a spotlight, get some exposure to those things that are happening so folks know what's going on within their community. We want there to be region-wide celebrations so that those learning opportunities can exist in the network and across all neighborhoods. And we want diverse stakeholders to start talking about the best things that are going on in education in their communities. We feel like it strengthens a region's learning ecosystem. On the next slide, you'll see all of the 2023 Remake Learning Days regions. We have regions across the world and across the US, but the 6 in the middle were last year's 6 Pennsylvania regions. If we go to the next slide, you'll see a little bit of our reach across the world. We started in 2016 in Pittsburgh, but by 2019, we started to expand. And we have regions across the US, in Suncoast in Florida, in West Virginia, but we also have festivals that are happening across the world. In the United Kingdom, in Doncaster, we have a festival that goes on in that city, as well as in Uruguay and in New Zealand. There are full-fledged festivals. We also do pop-up events where there might be one organization or one community that wants to do something going on a Remake Learning style event in their community. And so we'll have one event in a place, and we'll give that event host the supplies, the materials, the help that they need to host their own Remake Learning Days event. And so the West Coast of PA, that's some of those events, as well as in Israel and as well as India, we have events that are just pop-up events. On the next slide, you'll see some of our impact last year. There were just under 1,500 events across those 15 regions. 93% of those events were free. As I said before, over 100 news stories, tens of thousands of virtual and in-person attendees. And then millions of social media impressions for Remake Days, which is a great way of expanding our reach and our voice across the world. On the next slide, we'll see a little bit about what happened in Pennsylvania last year. Obviously, the Pittsburgh region has the largest number of regional events. Just because we have been in Pittsburgh for the longest, it is now a beloved tradition, and it just keeps growing there. But we have great festivals that are going on in Philadelphia and the Harrisburg area, up in Erie. And then you will probably notice that there is a bit of a hole in our map in that north central region. And we're working really hard. We found a great new regional event lead in north central PA, and we have actually formed a 7th festival in Pennsylvania so that there can be festival events for all children across the state that are accessible to their families. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit about what happened last year just in PA. Just under 600 events, 92% of them were free, most of them were in person. And then in Pennsylvania, we really have a good connection with our Career Ready PA friends. And we have helped them build out the Career Ready aspect of the festival to support the kids' portfolios that they have to do for career readiness at school. Here's a little bit more about that partnership with the Career Ready PA Backpack Challenge. It helps students become aware of various career opportunities and develops 21st century skills to be career ready, but in hands-on and fun ways. On the next slide, you'll see that nearly 2,000 kids last year got artifacts for their Career Ready PA backpacks, and 11 schools earned more than 100 badges, which is 100 artifacts into the kids' backpacks. And we're working really hard to grow that partnership. This year, we expect that number to be over 5,000 children receiving artifacts into their Career Ready PA backpacks, as well as a lot more schools earning those badges. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit of our social media. We use social media and media in general to really amplify our voice. And we work incredibly hard to get the word out over social media because we know that's where families are. And that helps us to get information about events to families, but also it shows our impact across the state. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit about Career Ready PA and some of the things that we did to highlight that aspect of our collaboration, including getting some high members of the Department of Education to go to some Career Ready PA activities so they could see the good work that these organizations are doing across the state. On the next slide, you'll see what Education Week and Ed Post were able to see when they went to our Remake Learning Days events last year. And we were so proud. You never know when a national news media comes to your event, what they're going to see. But we were proud and pleased when they saw what we're trying to put out there. Students' interests are sparked. We bring parents to the effort, joyful, innovative approaches to learning. That's what Remake Learning Days is all about, and that's what they were able to see when they went to events. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit about our website and how families can find events. So my family lives in York, Pennsylvania. I can filter by my location, how far I want to drive, what days I'm available, the ages of my kids. If I had a kid who had an accessibility need, like a need for a wheelchair, I can filter for that as well, so that I'm finding events that are going to work for my family and make it easy as possible for me and my family to go and attend the events. On the next slide, we'll see a little bit about our learning themes. So a lot of folks think of Remake Learning Days as just a STEM festival. And while we do have a lot of STEM events, we also have events that are focused on the arts. We have events who are focused on maker education and getting kids to realize that they have the power and ability to make things of their own. We have events that are all about outdoor learning. This particular event was a really cool one around birds migrating, and the kids not only went on a nature walk with their families to see if they could find the birds and band them, but also they then got to put on a virtual reality headsets and got to be the bird on its migratory path, and what that bird experiences when it gets too close to a loud city or a bright area, things like that. So it was both the nice mix of that outdoor learning, but also an immersive experience as well. On the next slide, you'll see our other skill building opportunities. We have events that focus just on science, some that are tech events. That particular one was a balloon battle bot. So kids and their parents got to build their robot. And the idea was that the robots would go into the arena and they would be battling to see which robot could pop the other's balloon on top. So they each had to include something that would pop another balloon, but also they had to include the fully inflated balloon on top of their robot. And kids and their parents built it together, and then they had to go and drive the robot around. They put it on top of a Sphero, and it had to drive around it and see which robot was going to win. And then at last, we have a number of events that focus on youth voice. We want to elevate our youth in our festival design. So we encourage events where youth are co-designing and leading our activities or our event to help them have a more active role in their own learning. On the next slide is another way that we work to elevate our youth voice, and it's called our Remake Learning Days ambassadors. We have both youth ambassadors, and this year for the first time we have parent-teacher ambassadors. The youth ambassadors are high school students who commit to going to 2 Remake Learning Days events. They give us a little bit of information about why they chose the events they chose. They go to the event, and then they create some kind of media piece that tells us about the event that we're able to share with the world. And before we play the video, you should know that they don't all have to be videos. Some kids make web pages, some make slideshows, some make a photo montage, they can make anything that they would like, but they're using it as a way to expand their own media awareness and media creation, as well as showing and bringing light to really cool events. Amanda, if you don't mind playing that video now, that would be awesome. I am not hearing anything, Amanda. I don't know if it worked in our earlier mode, and it's okay if it doesn't work now. All right, not gonna work. That's all right. You can click on it. We'll send these slides out to you after the event, and you can click on it and watch the video from yourself. But it is one of our ambassadors. This is the event she chose to go to, and this was what she created to share the event to the world. And it was really, really well done, professional quality video. Yep, we'll send out those slides and the link in a follow-up email. Thank you. On the next slide, we just often talk about trying to get families into creative learning spaces that they might not otherwise have access to. So this particular event was hosted by a hospital, and these young people got to do a mock surgery. And that's a great experience for a kid to help them think about the careers that could lead them to in the future, but also maybe what careers they don't want to do. But it's leveraging that time, space, and place in new and innovative ways. So we're always thinking about how to support folks who might not always think of themselves as an educational establishment in providing educational events to families. So how to get involved? You might be involved by being an event host. This year in 2024, Remake Learning Days has 7 events across Pennsylvania, including our North Central PA, which is our newest region. We're very excited to have them. And on the next slide, you'll get a little bit of information about becoming an event host. Really, it's very simple. You're going to submit your event at remakelearningdays.org. Event submissions are open, and they will remain open until the festival starts on May 2nd. But we do recommend submitting events before February 23rd because those events are able to be included in marketing and PR materials. After February 23rd, if you were to submit your event, it will still be on our website and it will still be available to families as they are searching, but we aren't able to put you in the print and marketing materials in the same way as we are if you submit early. Each region across Pennsylvania is using the same dates, May 2nd to 22nd this year. So we're really excited to host your event during that time frame. There will be a marketing session in March where we provide various materials, social media toolkits, press templates, everything that you might need to highlight your event and other festival events across the state. On the next slide, a little bit more information. We do a short survey that we provide to all of our event hosts that helps you to capture input from the families. We use that input to we use it to improve Remake Learning Days, but we also provide it to every event host so that you're able to strengthen your own educational programs and also strengthens our learning ecosystem. We ask all of our event hosts to share about your event as well as about the festival in general on remakelearningdays.org and also at the hashtag Remake Days. I think on the next slide, we pass it over to Penn State.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Miriam, for all this great information. So at Penn State, I've actually been helping a lot with Central PA's Remake Learning Days, but like Miriam said, Remake Learning Days happens throughout all of Pennsylvania and other locations. So submitting your event, it's a really nice way to elevate if you have something currently going on in those time frame of May 2nd to May 22nd. However, we also have pre-festival events. We just put a lot of emphasis on May 2nd to the 22nd, but maybe you have something going on around Earth Day. April 20th is when all of Remake Learning Days across America kicks off. So it's also a great time to think about it. Do you have something already cooking that you could spin up and help out, and we could help you elevate this as a Remake Learning Days event with a family engagement component. It also can be a virtual event. So WPSU every year also has a great virtual event that they offer every year. Shavers Creek does a few events in person, and there's always a few from Penn State. So we're hoping to elevate this more across all our Penn State communities to show that we are here for K through 12. And it might be an opportunity to think about engaged scholarship to involve either your undergraduate students or your graduate students, because they are looking for outreach activities, even your postdocs. If you work a lot with any postdocs and research labs, they're always looking for ways that they might be able to do an outreach service component to help build their resume as well. So think about that as well as, do you have students right now in that time frame that might want to help out with an event on your campus or at your organization or your Penn State entity? And also what I missed here before is the fact that there's a one-time delegation needed because there's a liability form at the end when you submit your event. It's a checkoff box because we, Remake Learning Days does not hold the liability of your event. It's your event. We still follow those same rules with youth compliance, or unless it's a public event. But that one-time delegation, I will get you through risk management. So once we see these populating on the back end, I work with risk management to make sure that you can get that one-time delegation so that you can check off that box on behalf of the university and that they can publish that before February 23rd. But also, like Miriam said, if you don't make the deadline for February 23rd, it is okay. Those events keep populating up on the website. The website is one of the main things that they use to elevate and to help families see all the great events happening across PA that you can get involved in. So without further ado, I want to make sure that we have some time for questions as well as we have Miriam here to think about what we might be able to do together or questions that you may have before we end this chat today.
And you're welcome to put it in the chat or the question and answer box.
And like I mentioned, you could be at any Penn State location, a launch box, a campus, the Penn State Health System, University Park, 4-H. There's a lot of locations we know that we have that are making an impact to our K through 12 environment. So we hope that we can elevate the great work that you're doing even more so with this great family engagement festival.
We just got a question from Kathleen Weller. She asks, since I'm in a different region, will you still see my event and get the waiver approved? And the answer is yes. What's happening on the back end is that as events from Penn State folks are going into our system, I'm actually pulling them weekly and sending events that have an event host that has a PSU address, basically is how we're doing it. So I'm pulling all of those events and sending them to Amanda weekly, and she is getting that liability waiver taken care of on your end. And once she's done that, she'll hopefully, I believe you're letting them know so that they can go in to check that box and submit your event fully.
Yes, that's correct. So again, yes, it doesn't matter wherever you're at in the Penn State family. I will take care of that. And more than likely, you're going to get an email then from risk management just saying that you have that one-time delegation approved so that you can go back into the system and check off that liability box at the very end. And then they will be able to get your event published from there. So excellent question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, another question. Kathleen asks, also, do you have any guidance on the mini grant that my region is offering? It is for $250. Does that need to get approved for grants and gifts office? I'm going to turn that one over to you, Amanda.
Yes. So I would definitely double check with them. I'm not sure, what gift might be too small or too large to work with them, but I would double check with your specific grants office on that process. And I think they range, there's some different ranges of mini grants, depending on what region you fall into. When you look at the website and you look at that specific region that you're in for the mini grant offering. But it is a great way to just, get some funding to help make your event more accessible and equitable to your community. A lot of times we see people use that money for food. They might even use it for some supplies or some take-home materials after their event. But I would definitely check with your grants office.
Yeah, I also spoke with my, I work fairly closely with WPSU, who does a lot of virtual events, and they said for them, they can't accept our mini grant funds, but they work with a number of schools and libraries to run the events. So those schools and libraries are able to put the event in the system. They're the ones who are able to accept the award, and then WPSU is able to run the event with them because they have that funding for the piece of it that they because they're the event host and they're the one who is doing it live, and then PSU comes in virtually to do it.
Yeah, so that it might not mean that you're the main event host. It might be a school, like Miriam is saying. It could be a different kind of way. We know we have a lot of schools that might do STEAM family nights at their school. And I know WPSU got involved in that way as well. But if there's something going on in a school district or another local school or community, you might be able to become involved as well. But it is great funds to take advantage of and to look at, how they could be used to help the communities that you serve.
Thank you very much. At this point, we are doing this one on our own with an existing program that we already have set up. But like you had said, the funds would be fantastic to utilize to get the supplies that we would need, other things that we may need, advertising.
Yep.
things like that throughout the
Yep.
program. So I appreciate your responses, and sorry that I was asking so many, but I've been trying to get
All right.
who's running this program to get the application done. And I was thinking that I needed to have the approval for the waiver prior to submitting everything. Well, I mean, I do, but getting everything set up. So it's good to know that it kind of works a little bit differently than I was thinking. So I appreciate that. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
that's quite all right. Just keep building the event in the back end of the website that you have, like when you go to submit your event from the website. But once we see that it's in draft mode, I can go from there and start that process of getting that liability that's needed.
So does draft, it's already out there, but I don't have the date set yet. So that I'm assuming you would probably need, because they're going to want to know that, I would imagine, right?
Remake Learning Days, with
No,
Mary.
the approval for the waiver.
Oh, no, they don't need to know the dates yet. They just need to know which Penn State entities or which Penn State individuals are going to host a Remake Learning Days event.
Okay.
And then they will get the one-time delegation that's needed. So they don't even need to know dates. They just need to know
Oh,
the
awesome.
names of the individuals that will submit.
Okay, mine is out there then. So
Okay, perfect.
thank you.
It should be
And-
coming.
Okay,
And
perfect. Thank you.
Kathleen, I believe, because I'm looking at it right now, if you're running the Snyder County 4-H Remake Learning Days event,
Yes.
awesome. That is in our system. We have seen it. I have sent it to Amanda. She's working on her end to get that waiver done. We know that it's still in draft form. That's totally good, great. And once you receive the information on your end, you can go in and submit it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's good to know.
No, we're happy to help.
Well, this is great. We'll make sure we package everything up and get this out to all that have had interest in a Remake Learning Days event. And the great thing is this happens every year. So once we get this rolling more and more, it'll become easier. I know that a lot of times a lot of entities are just hearing about this for the first time, but it's something that will continue every year, and just a really great festival that Pennsylvania Department of Ed is involved in. Like Mariam mentioned, the Career Ready PA Backpack Challenge, really great because it's an area that we're putting a lot of emphasis on in K-12 is to help students learn about careers across Pennsylvania and career readiness skills. So this is a great way for students and families to get exposure to all the great things going on in their community, so they can learn about the career demands and career skills that they need in the future. All right. Well, thank you so much to all that joined today. We greatly appreciate it. And you will see us on email. And without further ado, we can end early today at 11:32 and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all for coming. And I'm so glad to hopefully see some of your events come through and get them going with Remake Learning Days.